Last week, I asked you, what if your what ifs were wrong? Well, this week, I want to talk to you about what happens when you find out that your what ifs were wrong. Even when you know you're wrong, you're still somehow annoyed at your partner. You're still pissed at him. You're still a little defensive. Still not totally okay. Why? That's what we're going to get into today. So coming up, I'm going to explain why you still felt angry at someone you knew was completely innocent. Welcome back. I'm Shannon Bryant, and this is a show for people who are done letting jealousy and insecurity run their relationships. So I want you to picture it. It's Saturday morning. You and your partner are still laying in bed, barely awake yet, and you hear their text message go off. And you side-eye it as they open it. And they're like, oh, that's a group text from my boss. As they are clicking it to see who is in the group text. And they continue by saying, yeah, it's weird though. Can't tell if it is from them or not. It's just showing a number. It's just showing a phone number. Your brain immediately starts to go to work. Why is he so interested in who's on that group text? How could he not be able to tell if it's sent from his boss or someone else? What does it say? Who all's on there? I hate when people include other people in a group text that he doesn't even know. Or does he know them? And I just don't know it. You are already feeling yourself starting to spin. And then he says, I'm going to go make us some breakfast. And instead of thinking, that's so sweet, you're like, that's sus. That is so suspicious. How convenient that you're ready to leave the room. And as he's getting dressed, your spiral starts to pick up speed. Watch. I bet he's going to take his phone. Why would he need his phone to go make breakfast? The only reason is he wants to see who's replying or who all is on that list. Or he doesn't want me to see the names that come up or the messages that are going to be in that response. Or maybe he doesn't want me to see who's in his contacts. He gets dressed and he heads to the kitchen, and guess what he takes? Yeah, you know it. His phone. And that's it. You are so suspicious. You wait a few minutes. Honestly, now you're basically running a sting operation at this point. And then you quietly make your way to the kitchen. And sure enough, there he is standing there on his phone. And you feel that rush of energy, that surge, that fire in you. And before you can even help it, you're hearing yourself out loud say, I knew it. I knew you'd be on your phone. I knew that you would have to see who all is on that group text. Why is it so important to you? And he is pissed. And he turns his phone around and says, what? I want to make bacon in the oven for the first time. And I'm looking up to see the temperature and for how long. Ooh, ooh. And right there, through your fiery vision, you can see it. Cooking bacon in the oven. You can see exactly what he was looking at. It's right there on his phone. Now they're upset. You feel stupid. And somehow, even though you know you're completely wrong, you're still annoyed at him. For some reason, you're still suspicious. You're still wondering about the group text. You're still annoyed. And that moment right there, after you're proven wrong, is one of the most important moments in the jealousy cycle. Most people just blow right past it. Today, we're not doing that because it's very important. So drop a been there, done that in the comments if you've lived any version of the scenario that I just gave. So let's back up, because we need to understand what happened before you said all that, before the outburst, before you made a comment, before you shut down. When your partner checked that group text, that behavior was ambiguous. It doesn't mean anything on its own, but your brain doesn't file ambiguous things as neutral. It files them as a question mark. And a jealous brain cannot sit with a question mark. Psychologists call this the need for cognitive closure, the drive to land on an answer rather than stay in uncertainty. For most people, ambiguous behavior stays ambiguous until they have more information. For someone with jealousy, the brain skips straight to the most threatening interpretation because that's what our brain is trained to look for. So by the time your partner walked into that kitchen, you didn't have suspicion. You felt like you had conclusion. You just didn't know yet that that conclusion was wrong. So here's how you can tell asking versus challenging. Why are you so interested in that group text? That's not a question. That's a challenge dressed up like a question. A genuinely curious person asks. A threatened person accuses, even when there's a question mark at the end. The moment you said that out loud, you made a bet. You staked your interpretation against reality. And then reality flipped the phone around and showed you the bacon recipe. Logic says that you should have felt relieved when the truth came out. Nothing was happening. Your relationship is fine. He wasn't interested in the group text. He wasn't looking at it. Good news, right? But that's not what happened. Instead of relief, you got a stomach drop. Because being wrong doesn't just mean your suspicion was off. It means you caused a fight over nothing. It means you accused someone who didn't deserve it. It means you did the thing again. Researcher Roy Baumeister studied what happens when our self-image takes a hit, when we're exposed as the one who got it wrong, who caused the damage. The psychological cost is significant. It's not just embarrassment, it's a direct threat to how we see ourselves. So we have to talk about the whole guilt versus shame, the distinction that changes everything. So guilt says, I did something bad. Shame says, I am bad. Those sound familiar, but they lead to completely different places. Guilt is actually healthy. Guilt motivates that repair that we need. It makes you want to apologize for the situation, to do better next time. Research consistently shows that people who respond to mistakes with guilt have stronger relationships and more empathy. Shame does the opposite. Shame makes people want to hide, disappear, or attack. Because when you feel like you are the problem rather than that you did a problem, the brain looks for an exit fast. And one of the quickest exits, anger. In that moment after the bacon reveal, you weren't just feeling bad about what you did. You were feeling bad about who you are. That familiar, exhausting loop. Like, here we go again. I can't stop it. There's something so wrong with me. That's shame. And shame is the most destabilizing emotion we experience. When you've been wrong like this, does it feel more like I did something bad or I am something bad? Answer in the comments, let me know. There's no wrong answer. I just want you to think about it. When you do that, which way are you really leaning? Like, I feel like a bad person, or I did this bad thing. There's a concept in psychology called humiliated fury, sometimes called shame rage. The idea is this. Shame is so unbearable to sit with that the brain will convert it into anger almost automatically because anger has a direction. Anger gives you somewhere to point. Shame just kind of swallows you whole. So when you felt that flicker of irritation toward your partner after finding out that they were completely innocent and just cooking bacon, that wasn't really about them. That was the shame looking for an exit. Your brain tried to offload the weight by pointing it outward at the closest available person who happened to be standing there in the kitchen just making bacon. You weren't really angry at your partner. You were angry at the version of yourself you just had to see. And they were just the closest person. Once you can really see that, something can shift because now you're not fighting your partner. You're dealing with what's actually happening inside of you. And we're getting ready to talk about your partner's side of this because I have a ton of conversations with my husband all the time. So stick with this because I think it's something that most people with jealousy don't hear enough. And we kind of don't think about it enough. Your partner's frustration is real and it's valid. They made bacon. They did nothing wrong and they still got interrogated. That's a real injury, even when it's unintentional, even when you feel terrible about it afterward. And what's interesting, keep in mind, you're still trying to be mad at them. What makes this complicated is that now they're watching you feel bad and they have to decide what to do with their own frustration while you're in shame. Do they hold on to their hurt? Do they let it go to protect you? Do they reassure you even though they're the one who got accused? That is not a fair position to put someone in, especially not someone that you love and care about. And most partners of people who struggle with jealousy find themselves in it constantly, innocent, and still trying to manage the emotional aftermath of you. I'm not saying this to make you feel worse. I'm saying it because the path forward requires you to hold two things at once: your shame and their hurt, without making it all about you and without dismissing what they're carrying and what they feel. That's hard, but it's also what real repair looks like. So, okay, you were wrong. You felt the shame. You felt the weird residual anger. You know what that is now. So now what? Now what do you do? What does real repair look like? Before you say a word to your partner, get honest with yourself about what you're feeling. Not, I feel bad. That's too vague. Get specific. Are you embarrassed? Frustrated at yourself? Scared that you're never going to stop doing this? There's real science behind why this matters. When you can name exactly what you're feeling, not just I feel bad, but the specific thing, it actually dials down the emotional intensity. Just naming it accurately starts to shift it a bit. Guilt is your friend here. Guilt says, I did something I don't like. I want to fix it. Let guilt do that job. Set your anger aside. I just explained to you what it's about. Let guilt do it. What you're watching out for is when it tips into shame, when the story becomes, I'm broken, I always do this, something's fundamentally wrong with me. Just do a simple reset. Catch yourself on I am statements and swap them for I did. So I am a jealous mess becomes I reacted before I had the facts. Same situation, very different door to walk through. You have to go into the conversation with your partner from that place. If you still go into it with I am a mess, it's not going to go well. Most people fumble the apology because they're still in shame when they give it, and it comes out all tangled. It's kind of a half apology, half explanation, somehow turning it back towards them. I'm telling you, this is when you're usually going to blame them again. So here's what actually works. I accused you when I had no reason to. That wasn't fair, and I'm so sorry. I am working on catching myself before I get there. I just didn't catch myself in time this time. I'm sorry. And then stop, full stop. Because here's what you're going to be tempted to do. You're going to want to explain yourself. I've been feeling disconnected from you lately, or I just don't understand why you always have to take your phone everywhere. And I get it. Those feelings might be real, but the second you tack that on, you've turned an apology into a negotiation back into your partner has some control over the way that you are feeling, and they cannot fix this for you. The apology doesn't need a because. Your partner doesn't need your context right now or what's going on with you right now. They need to feel like what happened to them, being accused of something they didn't do, actually landed with you. Like you actually understand that that's what you just did to them. The other conversation about feeling disconnected or whatever's underneath it, that one might be worth having, just not in the same breath as your apology. That leftover frustration that you had needs to go somewhere. Pushing it down doesn't work. It just reappears later, usually aimed at your partner again for no reason at all. So write it out, not share it. Just get it out of your body. I know that that's the feeling anyway. So, what were you actually afraid of in that moment? What did you make that mean? Get it out in a different way. Use it as data. Every one of these moments tells you something about what your brain is scanning for. That's useful information if you're willing to look at it without judgment and without blaming your partner for some piece of it. Your partner was making bacon. They were doing nothing wrong. And you already know that. But now you also know why it still felt so bad after and why that flicker of anger towards someone you know was totally innocent actually makes sense, even when it doesn't feel good. The moment that you can see that clearly, not just in hindsight, but while it's happening, is the moment that things start to actually change. The question worth sitting with after you close this video: what did I think I was about to lose in that moment? Because that suspicion didn't come from nowhere. It was protecting something. And the answer to that question is where the real work is. So I want to hear from you in the comments. Share a moment where you were completely wrong about what your partner was doing. It doesn't have to even be a big thing. The bacon story proves that. And if that feels too vulnerable, just tell me this instead. What's one thing from today that you're going to try to do the next time that you feel that stomach drop? And speaking of next times, until next time, take care and remember, you're not alone.